chug, 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 chug,
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Wizard Staff Podcast. I am your host Blake.
And I'm Guy.
And we are two drunk novices who like to talk about EDH. We do drink and swear, so you've been warned. Please drink responsibly when playing children's card games. Tonight, we are doing our Commander Legends set review. But it's going to be a little bit different than our typical set reviews. We have to break this one into 3 different parts because there's just so much to talk about. So, in part 1, we're going to go over the quick background to make sure everyone's on the same page and talk about the new commanders with partner. Then in part 2, we're going to talk about the other multicolored commanders. And then in part 3, we're going to talk about notable reprints and the rest of the 99. But before we talk about all of that, we need to talk about what we're drinking. Guy, what are we drinking?
Well, I just picked a classic Guinness because there's no time to mess around. We need to get started. These are going to, take up a lot of time, and it's nice because our listeners will kind of hear a slow progression over these next 3 episodes of our descent into blackout drunk, because we are just going to be drinking all night.
This whole thing, we're going to record all 3 episodes in one go. And I'm going to start off with Firestone Walker 805. It's from California. Yeah, I'm not going to waste too much time on this because we got tons of other things to talk about. We do also, however, have a Ristic Study Alter giveaway, altered to be the Lo-Fi Hip Hop Chill Girl. So all you gotta do to become automatically entered is hit subscribe to our YouTube page. Once we hit 200, we will choose a winner and we will announce it on this episode and contact you. So, that being said, let's get into the quick background, make sure everyone's up to speed. What is Commander Legends, Guy?
I don't know. Tell me, Blake.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you. So it's like a larger set than normal, with both reprints and new cards. There are about 165 new cards, including 71 legendary creatures and 2 planeswalkers that can be your commander.
Holy moly!
Yeah, that's a bit more than usual, I'd say. It does contain 361 regular cards and includes randomly inserted premium versions of cards every once in a while. There are no basic lands. There are 6 new commander deck cards and in the precons. And what else? The pre-release is November 13th in stores and at home. There's a promo art card that is Sengir, the Dark Baron. We'll talk about him later. And there's also a buy a box foil with Mana Confluence. But the main idea of this product, the main inspiration for it, is it's basically Booster Draft meets Commander.
Yeah, we're not going to go too much into depth about how to draft for this episode. That might be something that we do later. We don't have the boxes, so we can't give you first-hand experience. And there's probably people who will be able to explain it better. But we do plan to maybe revisit that at some point once we're able to experience it ourselves. So the main focus for all the cards that we're going to be reviewing are more so in the typical commander style, since the draft is a little more made shift for, that kind of unique environment.
Yeah, and there are a few different key mechanics in the set. So Guy, do you want to talk about those really quickly?
Oh yeah, so we got 4 mechanics, 3 returning and 1 new one. The first returning one is Partner. And it was originally printed in Commander 2016. And to help facilitate deck building, this set features 40 monocolor partners and 1 colorless partner. So, Partner allows a player to have 2 commanders if each of them has the partner keyword. This is a little different than Partner with, which only allows you to have 2 commanders if they say partner with each other. In this scenario, any 2 commanders with just the word partner can be your commanders together. And that really helps with the more draft building environment, so you can have a better chance of drafting the cards for the color of your commander. So yeah, as we go through Commander Legends, we're going to do our best to assess commanders on their own and then possibly suggest another partner, whether it's new or old, since you have the opportunity to go back and use the 15 original ones. So, yeah, I mean, they did say that about, I don't know, I think there's now like 1,500 combinations that you can do with 2 legendary creatures that have partner, which is crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's like too many to count and playtest.
And partner has been a huge part of CEDH because they can have 2 partners and kind of like makeshift their deck to be whatever colors that they need it to be, and then kind of just base it off of like what commanders are giving you the best kind of card advantage.
Yeah, so people were a little bit nervous, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Alright, the second one is Cascade, another returning mechanic. So that was originally printed in Alara Reborn, and that is when a spell with a Cascade is cast, its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a non-land card that costs less, and then they may then cast that card without paying its mana cost. So if you Cascade something with CMC 5, you then flip a card until it's a non-land card with CMC 4 or greater, or less, sorry.
And Cascade caused problems in other formats, so they're like, where can we include Cascade? Let's put it in Commander, because it'll be fine there.
Yeah. It is a powerful mechanic for sure, but it, I think, does the best in Commander because you can oftentimes... You're probably never always going to cascade into the same thing. And the last returning mechanic is Monarch, which is coming from Conspiracy, Take the Crown. So it helps facilitate the multiplayer play, since Conspiracy was all about multiplayers. So only one player can be the designated Monarch at a time. You get Monarch typically through a card granting you that ability. And then at the beginning of the Monarch's end step, they draw an additional card if they dealt combat damage to someone. And in order to take the monarchy from someone else, someone has to deal combat damage to them. So it's kind of a way of always having one person that you kind of want to target, because if you let one person have the monarchy for too long, they're just going to be able to gain a ton of card advantage by continuously drawing cards and probably running off with the game. And there's a lot of discussion about how, the monarchy should just be a regular part of Commander. But I think now that discussion will kind of die down because there's a ton of cards in this set that will grant you the Monarch, and I think that's going to really help us just see it more often in especially casual play. So it won't be something that always needs to come up. It's just going to be something when someone introduces it.
Right. I don't think that kind of discussion will pop up too often, hopefully.
Yeah. And then Encore is our last mechanic, and it's the new one. It appears only on non-legendary creatures, and it has a alternative casting cost that you can pay to exile it from your graveyard to create a number of token copies of that creature equal to the number of opponents you have. Each of those tokens has haste, and they must attack either a player or planeswalker that your opponent controls, and then you have to sacrifice those tokens at the end of your turn.
I'm just going to tell you now, I think this is more relevant towards like the draft environment. I don't think there's going to be too many of these Encore cards that are going to be played after this.
Yeah, I don't think we're actually going to talk about any of the Encore cards, but those would be more relevant in the 99 anyway. We got some new commanders to talk about, and the only other thing is, a lot of these commanders come with a foil etched version, which is new to Commander Legends, and it can be found in the collector boosters packs and normal draft packs. If you draft a reprinted commander, because some of those pop up, you could use those in the draft environment. So they did reprint all 15 of the original partners, And then I think they printed another 25 really popular commanders that people just, really enjoy playing. Nagila the Blade Blossom, Ramos Dragon Engine.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in part 3.
Yeah, just to name a few.
Alright, we're going to start off with the new commanders with partner. We are going to go in Wooburg order. That means white, blue, black, red, green, multicolor, and colorless. Let's just start off white. Radiant Sarah Archangel. 6 and white. Legendary creature Angel with flying, obviously. Tap another untapped creature you control with flying. Radiant Sarah Archangel gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn, and it has partner, and it's a 6/4.
Yeah, this reminds me a little of that knockoff Avacyn we got, I think last year, Saphara Skyblade. And on her own, as a white commander, I don't think that she's that fantastic. There's a few partners that we'll talk about, Sione, Eye of the Storm, that you could use this to partner with because they both care about creatures with flying. And blue is good at fixing some of the problems that white has, like card draw, and you have access to better counters. But if you do then run this with let's say a blue partner commander, I would suggest running Dovescape, which is that one enchantment that counters all other spells just to create a ton of birds.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah, so you can then always have access to something to make sure that Radiant Sarah Archangel can gain protection from a different color, because you'll probably have many birds and you can just tap 5 birds to give her protection from every color.
Yep, and we're gonna keep moving right along.
Nothing else special about her. Alright, so Prava of the Steel Legion, 2 and a white, legendary creature, cat soldier. As long as it's your turn, creature tokens you control get +1/+4. 3 and a W, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with partner, and it's a 1/4. So this is an Anthem type commander, and white does tend to care about tokens quite a lot, and there are plenty of other Anthem cards. What's nice about this Anthem effect, though, is that the +4 for the not the defense, attack and power and toughness.
You're still stuck in Yu-Gi-Oh mindset?
Yeah, so power and toughness. So the +4 though for toughness is pretty relevant because that's a significant
big
boost. Yeah, so your tokens probably aren't going to be dying quite as often as they would be without, multiple normal anthems, which only give you +1/+1.
And keep in mind with all these other cards, because all of these cards say partner, you're not restricted to white. You can reach into green, which is known for its token generation, and a few of the other colors can also generate certain types of tokens. These cards are hard to evaluate because they all just have so many different options, and it's hard to tell. But we're gonna try our best. So our next one is Rebek, Architect of Ascension, 3 and a white, legendary creature, human artificer. Artifacts you control have protection from each converted mana cost among artifacts you control. It has partner, and it's a 3/4. So it protects your artifacts, and this is a pretty weird and unique ability.
Yeah, white does care about artifacts quite often. It tends to care about artifacts and enchantments. You got Sram, who will draw you a card every time an artifact comes into play, or then Ether Swarm Canonist, which kind of limits you and your opponents from playing other types of spells if they aren't artifacts. I know that you kind of memed about this with me and our friend, but this could go well maybe in a mono white Voltron strategy, just because. Well,
yeah.
the way that I think about it is if you're building at least Voltron with artifacts and
with equipment.
Right, so equipment, and then your equipment's just going to be, you have several different equipments with different converted mana costs, so this will help, kind of gain protection among all of them,
Sure, yeah, I guess so.
I'm not gonna say that's the tier 1 Voltron strategy, but I do think that it is a route that you can take.
Where's my Voltron CEDH deck? Come on. It's gonna happen one day, guys. Come on. No.
Yeah. Keep dreaming. Kellis, Humane Familiar, 1 in a white. And we got our first legendary horse, if we don't count any, like, legendary unicorns. But whenever a commander you control attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Partner, 1/1.
What power.
Oh, yeah. I do think that this doesn't have to be your commander if you're, have, like, some kind of combat-focused deck, because it says whenever a commander you control attacks, so you could still have this and help pump your commander, which is kind of nice.
This card makes me think of the fact that, like, Crested Sunmare came out, and everyone's like, why wasn't this, like, the horse tribal commander? What the hell? And then, now this one comes out, it's like, okay, here's your horse tribal commander.
Yeah, but Crested Sunmare was much better, I think.
Just put it in the 99. It's fine. We're there. Alright, we got Livio. God, I love butchering new names of cards I don't know. Livio, Oathsworn Sentinel. It is 1 and a white. Legendary creature, Human Knight. Then it has 2 activated abilities. 1 in white, choose another target creature. Its controller may exile it with an Aegis counter on it. 2 in white, tap. Return all exiled cards with Aegis counters on them to the battlefield under their owner's control. It has partner, and it's a 2/2. So this is kind of like a blink deck, and it can kind of get political because you can choose your other opponent's stuff, right?
Yeah, I like that because you have the chance to save your opponent's creatures, and it could be kind of a, hey, I scratch your back, you scratch my back kind of thing. And what's nice too is you kind of have the choice to bring them back at whatever time you want. And there's another card that we'll talk about later, Promise of Tomorrow, which is kind of similar, but what's great about this one is that you have that flexibility. Alright. Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist. 2 white, legendary creature, Core Scout. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, you may attach any number of auras and equipments you control to target permanent or player. It has partner, and then it's a 2/2. So again, this is pretty good for mono white, or for anyone who is trying to make one big creature. Kobold has been one that's been suggested to me. Sorry, not Kobold. Rogcraw. He's the new Kobold legendary creature that we'll talk about in a bit. But white's definitely kind of its theme throughout a lot of these commanders is trying to focus more on cheating mana costs for attachment of permanents to kind of help incentivize combat strategies.
Yeah, I feel like this is like most comparable to cards like Sigarda's Aid and like Pure Steel Paladin, the cards that kind of make your equipment cost basically cost 0. And those cards are really nice because I think, at least in my experience playing equipment, it kind of sucks because you have to cast the equipment and then you have to pay more mana to move them onto a creature. And I'm like, that's so much mana, I don't want to do that. Like, so I love that there's now like basically Arden is now like this third card that basically does this.
Oh boy, we got a big one coming up.
Yes, this is Akroma, Vision of Ixidor. 5, white, legendary creature Angel, with flying, first strike, vigilance, trample. At the beginning of each combat until end of turn, each other creature you control gets +1/+1 if it has flying, +1/+1 if it has first strike, and so on for double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, protection, reach, trample, vigilance, and partner. Then itself has partner, and it's a 6/6. This thing is like wild. It's very fitting compared to like the other Akroma cards, like Akroma's Memorial and Akroma Angel of Wrath. It's got all this like keyword soup.
Yeah, it definitely gives those kind of decks a big buff. And it does say that... Oh, okay, never mind. I was about to say, like, does she get like +1/+1 for having these keywords? But it says each other creature, so it doesn't buff her. But another good card is like Cathril Aspect Warder. which is the Ikoria commander from earlier this year, where its main goal is to like put creatures into your graveyard to then kind of like buff up the creatures that are on your field. So then this card could potentially give like +8 to +14, and you know, if they do happen to have flying, you're gonna have some like double-digit creatures in the air, which could, you know, go in for lethal.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like casual EDH players love playing like Angel Tribal. They just love it.
Yeah.
So I could see that happening.
This is the mythic rare partner, mono color partner for white, and we'll kind of give our thoughts on like how white kind of did in terms of overall, because it was kind of a big talking point for Commander Legends that they were trying to introduce powerful white cards. But we'll kind of do that closer to once we've reviewed every single new like mono white card in our 99. So our last mono white card is Alhara, Solemn Ritualist. 4 white, legendary creature, human monk. When Alhara, Solemn Ritualist enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 other target creatures. And whenever a non-token creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Has partner and is a 3/3. So, of the ones that we've already talked about, I don't think that this one stands out to me in terms of a partner commander that you would want to splash white, just because all the other ones are giving you some kind of mana cost, like get around, or you know, some kind of better anthem effect that white would probably care about.
Yeah, this is just kind of a card that tries to maintain the number of creatures that you have on your board. Like if one of your things dies, it makes another kind of creature token. I wrote this down, but I like very quickly already forgot about it. That's just how memorable it is. There's a few of these like that.
This is one that I didn't see anyone else talking about, and so when we were going over making sure that we had all of our legendary creatures, we came to this card and I was like, oh, I guess this was another card I missed, but...
Yeah, we made sure that we didn't miss any. Alright, we have made it to blue. We're getting there, folks.
Yeah, we're 2 colors in, Blake. We're getting there, alright.
And I'm already like halfway through my beer.
I'm all the way done.
Oh shit. Alright, we have Malcolm, Keen-Eyed Navigator, 2 and a blue, legendary creature, Siren Pirate with flying. Whenever one or more pirates you control deals damage to your opponents, you create a treasure token for each opponent dealt damage. And then it has partner and it's 2/2. What do you think?
This was Sheldon's preview card, so fun fact. And in Commander Legends, there's 10 different strategies that are based around like the 2 colors that you want to care about when you're drafting. So for blue and red, it's pirates. And then, you know, white and blue was about flyers, and white and black was about creature tokens. But this is a pretty good pirate card, and this could go into your Admiral Bracket Brass deck. But it goes even better with Breaches, who's another partner commander that we'll talk about when we get to red. Because they are both pirates, and they care about pirates. And each of them give great card advantage and mana advantage. And you can pretty easily go infinite with cards like Lightning Rig Crew and Glinthorn Buccaneer to just kind of like draw your whole deck and create a bunch of mana to just then like win. So pretty good. Personally, I do want to build a casual pirate deck, and I think that I will end up choosing these Malcolm and then Breaches as my 2 commanders. But then, you know, we do have, I think, 2 other pirates that are blue and red, so it'll be nice that I can kind of like choose who I want to be the commander for whatever game. Because then you can kind of like choose the varying power levels, which is really cool if you're going to... So essentially the deck will have maybe like 6 or 7 different potential commanders, since I'm not going to be building it around the strategy of, trying to be like EDH. It's just going to be casual. So I can really kind of like pick and choose who I want.
Yeah, those are some of the most fun commanders, though. The ones that can be played like CDH, but also play very casually as well. Those are, I think, in my opinion, some of the best kinds of commanders.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to the next card, which is Siani, Eye of the Storm, 3 and a blue, legendary creature, Jin Monk with flying. Whenever Siani attacks, scry X, where X is the number of attacking creatures with flying. And it has partner, and it's a 3/2. Honestly, there doesn't seem to be much interest around this card. It just doesn't quite do anything that people were looking to do. The general rule is like scry 3 is basically equivalent to drawing a card. So like you want to be attacking with 3 or more creatures every single time. I mean, it is card advantage, and you can partner it with really anything you want, to be honest. And I'm sure that there's somebody out there who will find this enjoyable, but I don't really have too much to say about it.
This is the one that I was talking about that I would pair with the Radiant Sarah Archangel if it was like outside of the draft environment, because they both care about creatures. And Siani especially, since you're going to have flying creatures attacking and you want a lot of flying creatures, this will help kind of like get you through your deck more. And then Dovescape's a good card in that deck then. Ha ha ha. More like Bird Tribal, am I right?
Oh my god. Foreshadowing.
Alright, so next we have Brynlin, the Moon Kraken. 6 blue, legendary creature Kraken. If you didn't already know that it's a Kraken. When Brynlin, the Moon Kraken, enters the battlefield, or whenever you cast a spell with converted mana cost 6 or greater, you may return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. It has partner, and it's a 6/8. There's a Simic Naga Wizard that we'll talk about in the 2-color commanders that I think this could slot into, but this is 8 mana. I don't think that it's going to be well worth the payoff to like cast this for 8 mana. Like, if you think about other 8 mana commanders, like the first one that I think of at least is Avacyn, my like favorite card, and that just does so much more for me than this would do, because then I would have to wait a whole another turn before I can then cast like something for 6 mana.
Right. I mean, this commander pretty much asks you to run a very, very high mana curve in your deck. That can be really difficult unless you're planning to cheat things into play. But that being said, I do know that there are a lot of casual players that like to play commander decks that are revolving around Krakens and Leviathans and Sea Serpents. So I think that's why this card specifically says that. It's built, I think, with the idea that you're going to play this with all your other Krakens and Sea Serpents and Leviathans.
Yeah, so in a deck where that it really cares about cards like that, I can see. But as a commander, not so much.
That ability is kind of nice. It's a little bit like a nerfed Tidespout Tyrant, where you can just bounce like any target non-land permanent to the owner's hand. But the fact that you have to be casting something that's like 6 CMC or greater, oof, that's a big ask.
Right.
This next card is Ghost of Ramirez de Pietro, 2 and a blue, legendary creature, Pirate Spirit. Ghost of Ramirez de Pietro can't be blocked by creatures with toughness 3 or greater. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, choose up to 1 card in a graveyard that was discarded or put there from a library this turn, and then put that card into its owner's hand. It has partner, and it is a 2/3. So this is in reference to one of the very first legendary creatures ever made. Remember back in Legends set, there was Ramirez de Pietro. He was alive. Now it seems like he's fucking dead, which is a little bit sad. But hey, this was kind of like what I was hoping for from Commander Legends, that they would basically revive a lot of these old Legends cards that were kind of made before the Commander format even came around. So they're basically getting new life breathed into them, except kind of reverse with this dude because he's dead.
Yeah, this definitely wants to push Mill as the strategy because it does care about cards that were put into a graveyard when he attacks. And I mean, I do enjoy the fact that there's a lot of these kind of like Easter egg commanders where we're seeing some commanders revised in a new way because it would have been kind of hard to work them into, you know, the main storyline of Magic. And then some of them we're actually seeing for the first time. But this isn't one that I was like on my radar. So personally, like, it's like when they were like, oh, we're gonna have a kind of a ghost of someone, I was like, oh, who could it be? Maybe it's Avison. That's who I was kind of hoping for, but no, it's this random pirate guy.
Hey, he's a fun dude.
Yeah, but how much did you know about him before this?
Irrelevant.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Alright. Eligif, Crossroads Augur. 4 blue, legendary creature Sphinx, flying. If you would scry a number of cards, draw that many cards instead. Partner, 5/6. So what does blue care about? Scrying. What does blue care about even more? Drawing cards. So, yeah, this seems like a slam dunk for, you know, synergy with, like, Preordain. What's the other one? Serum Visions. Those kind of cards. Opt, for sure. Opt now just reads like blue, draw 2 cards, which is almost on Ancestral Recall level.
Ooh, you just gotta play this weird Sphinx as like your commander. As one of your commanders. Oh, that's...
It doesn't have to be your commander, though. It can go in Sphinx Tribal, but...
Oh, I suppose, but... yeah.
Yeah.
Our next card is Sakashima of the Thousand Faces. It is 3 and a blue, legendary creature, human rogue. You may have Sakashima enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima of a Thousand Faces' other abilities. And then it has the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. And it has partner and it's a 3/1. So there aren't too many cards that let you ignore the legend rule. Like, so far we've had Mirror Gallery, Spark Double, Helm of the Host, and that's kind of really been it. To be clear, the legend rule means like you can't have more than one of a legendary card, right?
Right, so typically Planeswalkers are all legendary, and then I think every other permanent type can be legendary.
Yes.
Yeah. When you compare this, which is the Mythic Blue partner, to Akroma, who we just got, it's kind of like night and day in terms of like power level, because I mean, I'm sure someone who's much smarter than me is going to be able to like break this a bit and have a lot more fun, but it's only 4 blue mana, and yeah, I just feel like it's going to be pretty abusable because you can, you know, create a lot of clone copies of like this to then create more clone copies of other cards. And that's kind of like how maybe I would build it, is I would have Sakashima enter the battlefield as Sakashima, but then clone it a bunch so that my clone copies could come in as other cards that I care about. And then I could just create a bunch of like, you know, copies of Sakashima.
Yeah, and keep in mind this has partners, so like you can have, say, your other partner be Bruce Tarl. So it's like, alright, I have 2 Bruce Tarls now. Big mustache men.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't even think about, oh, can I partner this with another legendary creature and then just kind of have 2 of one of the same commanders?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Who's next? Okay. Glacian, Power Stone Engineer, 5 and a blue, legendary creature, human artificer. Tap X untapped artifacts you control. Look at the top X cards of your library. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Partner, 3/6.
Yeah, so honestly, there are just so many artifact decks in mono blue and other color identities that this quickly just falls to like the bottom of that list, and I've already kind of started to forget about it, to be honest. This one's kind of a dud, and I think it's more relevant towards like the draft environment. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from this.
Yeah, I think there's one partner that I wrote this down later on that you could pair this up with, but when you have cards like Urza, Lord High Artificer, as like, the best blue artifact commander, this one really doesn't stand out that much. Alright, one more.
Essior, Ward Wing Familiar. It is 1 in a blue, legendary creature bird, with flying, obviously. Spells your opponents cast that target one or more commanders you control cost 3 more to cast, partner, and it's a 1/3. So, this is a taxing effect to target your permanents, which... maybe we can talk about this a little bit. I've never been that impressed, usually because it only taxes you 2 mana, which is like pretty easy to pay for, but for some reason it seems like paying 3 is a lot more difficult. For like your removal spell, like just imagine your Swords to Plowshares now costs like 4 mana. That's kind of rough. That's hard to hold up that much mana.
Yeah, I think Tymna is the one that wants this the most, because Tymna cares about cards dealing combat damage, and this bird is going to be a little difficult to get rid of, especially when it does cost an additional 3 mana to target it with. And so the bird Essior can go in, deal damage, and just then gain that like life gain and then draw cards from like what Tymna does. I could see this being relevant in EDH play, especially also because it is only 2 mana. Alright, now we're moving on to black. And we got Cascade, the Flesh Sculptor. 2 in a black, legendary creature, human artificer. Tap. Sacrifice 3 other artifacts and or creatures. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. And then it's partner and it's a 1/3. Now I gotta say, this is one ugly motherfucker.
True. I think it's like Phyrexian.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of Phyrexian references in Commander Legends, which is pretty cool. I think that's kind of hinting at we could see a return to Phyrexia in 2022.
I think a lot of people are betting on that. I think that's coming down. I think Ashiok is like maybe going there.
Yeah. So sacrificing 3 artifacts seems like a lot to put 3 cards into your graveyard. There is Armix, who is another black artifact commander that you can pair him with to make mono black artifact, care about. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm missing the point of like why this cares about artifacts in black.
I mean, Phyrexia is like artifact related, right?
Yeah, so maybe it's just kind of a flavor thing, but I don't think that this is one we'll see much outside of the draft environment. I think black and blue tend to care about putting yourself and filling up your graveyard, so maybe that's why this card is really just kind of like a powerhouse for that.
Yeah, there's a good chance you partner it up with like a commander with partner and is in blue, because then you get like a good amount of synergy. Alright, we'll move on to Sengir, the Dark Baron. This is one of the first cards like ever revealed for this set. It is 4 black, legendary creature Vampire Noble with flying. Whenever another creature dies, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Sengir. And then, whenever another player loses the game, you gain life equal to that player's life total as the turn began. It has partner and it's a 4/4.
What's cool about this is it says whenever another player loses the game. So it doesn't matter though that you killed your opponent. So you could have someone else kill your opponent and then you gain that life.
Oh, that's true.
I just realized it as we were talking about it, and I was like,
we've had months to figure this out, and we're just like now, oh yeah, it does do that, doesn't it? Alright.
Yeah, the possibilities with all these commanders is just kind of been really hard to evaluate. I don't feel like there's any... I mean, some of them do kind of have like a very linear strategy, but what's nice about these partners is that they're so open-ended that, you know, you really could go anywhere. And, I mean, you know, maybe this does go in just like your Vampire Tribal deck.
Yeah. People really like Sengir.
The Professor especially does. Alright. Armix, Filigree Thrasher. I mentioned him a few moments ago. Legendary Artifact Creature Golem. Whenever Armix Filigree Thrasher attacks, you may discard a card. There's that, you know, filling up your graveyard that I told you that black and blue probably care about. When you do, target creature defending player controls gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control plus the number of artifacts in your graveyard.
Wow.
So maybe he does have to pair up with this one guy to care about mono black artifacts, but mono black artifacts in the graveyard.
So smart.
Yeah, and like Cascade and this guy. I mean, you could also just be like throwing in. Oh, you could just be throwing in like dredge cards.
Oh my god,
just
you
be
would
like
dredge.
Yeah, not that you would care about like. I feel like I'm using dredge in the most like inefficient way when it could be just used for like so many other like broken combos. But yeah, I mean, black discard. Yeah, okay, black artifacts, but artifacts in the graveyard, not on the field. This is the new tier 0 strategy, guys.
Oh my god. When in doubt, just dredge. Alright, we have Tormod the Desecrator. 3 and a black, legendary creature, zombie wizard. Whenever one or more cards leaves your graveyard, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. It has partner and it's a 4/4. So I guess this is Tormod. We've kind of known about him because of cards like Tormod's Crypt, Zombies. It's all coming together. Whoa.
Yeah, I think we can just end the podcast right now because we've come completely full circle. Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you had a great night. No, I'm kidding. But what's important to note is that it says one or more. So that means if you exile your entire graveyard, you're still only getting one card.
That's lame.
Yeah, but Victimize was spoiled alongside this card, and that feels like a great signature combo for this, because you bring back 2 creatures and create a zombie, and you probably already have a zombie that you can just sacrifice for Victimize, so you kind of essentially just bring back 2 creatures without having to sacrifice anything for 3 mana, which pretty good. And I mean, black has reanimation effects, so, you know, if you like reanimate, or what's the other? Reanimated Dead, I think, is the other one. So if you
Animate Dead?
play those... Yeah. So cards like that, which are like really cheap in mana cost, are essentially like bringing back 2 creatures for... Or you're getting 2 creatures for pretty much like 1 or 2 mana, which is a really good rate.
Yeah, I honestly don't think too many people will play this, though. There are just so many good zombie cards at this point. I'm not sure if this really makes the cut.
I think this will make not the cut for like your commander, but I do think that this could make its way into zombie tribal decks.
Yeah, people do like zombies.
Oh yeah, it's very popular.
Alright, the next one is Nadir, Agent of Duskanel. 5 and a black, legendary creature, elf warrior. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Nadir. Whenever Nadir leaves the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens equal to its power. It has partner and it's a 3/3. So I guess it kind of goes into your casual black X token decks, I guess. There doesn't seem to be much talk or excitement around this card. Again, it kind of feels more oriented towards the draft environment, making draft work.
Yeah, green and black care about elves in the draft environment, so I think that's what this is trying to get you to make. But yeah, I mean, it's weird to me that black is the other color that is getting paired to really focus around those elf tribal strategies. Okay, but I mean, so it's okay. If you have like a black-green elf tribal deck now, I guess that this can be either the commander or a good 99 piece. But we'll move on to Foul Fist, Shadow Cat Familiar. Legendary creature, Nightmare Cat. Commanders you control have Menace and Death Touch. Partner 2/2. And I mean, this is pretty good for any black deck that focuses on combat. I mean, you could put this in Greven, though that's just essentially giving Greven like Death Touch. But I don't know, it's not compared to the red familiar, the blue familiar, and the green familiar. This one's kind of okay.
Yeah, and I guess you can run this in the 99. You can also, if you do run this as one of your commanders, because again it has partner, it's sort of like giving your other commander an additional color. This time it's black, and it's basically giving it 2 keywords, in this case Menace and Death Touch. So it's interesting design. I don't think it'll see much play, but it is interesting design. Oh, but I'm excited about this next card. You ready for this guy?
Who is it?
Oh, we have Tivish, Zat, Doom of Fools, 4 and a black, legendary Planeswalker.
Planeswalker? I think you mean creature, right, Blake?
Nope, this is a legendary Planeswalker.
Oh my god.
And it starts off with 4 loyalty. +2, create 2/0/1 black Thrall creature tokens. +1, you may sacrifice another creature or planeswalker. If you do, draw 2 cards, then draw another card if the sacrificed permanent was a commander. And then the ultimate is -10, gain control of all commanders. Put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. And on top of that, this can be your commander, and it also has partner.
I mean, I kind of expected that because we are talking about partner commanders. So, people are bitching, and I mean bitching, about this card. And if you are bitching about this card, I need you to take a chill pill. The ultimate is scary, I guess. Don't get me wrong. But unless you care specifically about building a Super Friends deck, and even then, in a Super Friends deck, this is going to be just another Planeswalker that you run at the 99, not your commander. I don't think that you're going to see this ultimate go off as much as you might think. So the best commanders to pair this with are probably the ones that are green, where you could run Doubling Season, but even when you need to still get like a turn cycle to like get this off, and you know people are just going to be coming for you since you're going to be like arch enemy.
Just be like, I'm just using it for the card advantage, I swear.
Yeah. So black does have a ton of ways of proliferating, but if you've noticed, I've talked a lot about how like there's a lot of setup for this, and it's not just going to be able to be something that you do with one turn. And it's just like people are going to see this coming from like a mile away. So all I have to say is do not worry. If this effect goes off, awesome. You'll probably only experience it a handful of times in general. And I mean, just don't get too upset. It seems like it's kind of fun. Just run like Homeward Path a little more so, you know, everyone just becomes your friend because, you know, commanders will get out and then you can just put them into their owner's control again.
And I do want to remind everyone listening that I'd say within the last year or so, WotC has been designing a lot of cards, specifically removal spells that not only address creatures, but also planeswalkers. They've been including planeswalkers in the number of things that can be removed in the various removal spells. So there are answers to this out there. It kind of depends on like whatever your deck is doing, but I think Planeswalkers used to be a hard permanent type to interact with, but it's slowly getting more and more easier to interact with them.
Yeah, I do, I guess, kind of like how it says, for the ultimate, put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. So, if you do run this in like the 99 as like a Super Friends deck kind of thing, you can then kind of bring out your own commander for free at that point as well, which is kind of nice. But yeah, I don't think people are going to see this effect go off. I think if it is something that does bother your playgroup, have a discussion with them. You know, maybe it's not something that you play every game, but it does seem like it's just going to become like kind of a fun arch enemy sort of deal.
Yeah, that's how I look at it.
And I mean, like, you know, do you think every deck is built around taking the most advantage of your commander? Like, you know, if someone takes the Gibrog monster out of an opponent's command zone, that means that that person then has to be, like, sacrificing their lands. And they're probably going to be like, I don't know if I actually want to do that. So they might just have to sacrifice it and put it back. So... And it's no big deal to you, because then it's not like it was cast and it needs to then add on to the tax thing. So, I don't know. End rant.
We've got other cards to talk about.
This one is just kind of like... Well, this is the Black Mythic if you haven't figured it out. But it was definitely worth the longer talk about.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we just talked for like 5 minutes about this one. Now we got this one, who's an uncommon, Myara, Thorn of the Glade, 1 black legendary creature, elf scout. Whenever Myara or another elf you control dies, you may pay 1 mana and 1 life. If you do, draw a card. Partner, 1/2. So like I said, black-green is kind of the elf tribal archetype that you want to care about in draft. And if you're putting together a black-green elf deck, I think that this is, you know, a decent include, but I don't think it's worth running as the commander. I do like the art of this card, though, for some reason. It feels very soft to me.
Fair enough. We're gonna move into red now. Oh, Guy, I know it's my turn to talk, but I feel like you should talk about this one.
Well, that's okay, because I was gonna say, shut up, Blake, I'm talking about this card.
Wow.
Alright, so we just did a 5-minute rant about the Black Mythic Planeswalker commander that can be partnered. So let's now do a 5-minute rant about the red one.
God damn it.
So Jessica, Thrice Reborn, 2 in a red, legendary Planeswalker. Jessica, loyalty 0. What? Oh, sorry. There's more text. Jessica enters the battlefield with a loyalty counter on it for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. That is very important because it says from the command zone. So 0, choose target creature. Until your next turn, if that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that damage to that player instead. Ooh. Then you have -X. Jessica deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. And then she can be your commander and has partner. I was super upset because it's combat damage. God damn it, I was so ready to just throw this into Perforos to deal triple damage every turn. But alas, I can't always get what I want.
Guy, you're not allowed to have those things.
Alright, hold on. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna calm down. It's the red in me that's getting really emotional right now. So, this can definitely... So, okay. So, I'm not going to be taking advantage of the combat damage part. But I am going to be taking advantage of that you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Because my idea for building this is with Food Chain. And so what you do is you pair this up with someone like Thrasios, or I forget who the green-black partner was.
Icar Shadiki?
Yeah, but someone who will allow you to have access to Food Chain and either a good card draw or, you know, good tutors. And so then you can then run like Miss Hollow Griffin, Squeed the Immortal, and Eternal Scourge. Do the Food Chain combo, gain like an infinite amount of mana to, you know, cast creature spells. then you can just recast over and over and over the partner who isn't Jessica, whether it's Thrasios or that one Blake just mentioned. So then you can cast Jessica, and she comes into the field with like a bajillion loyalty counters. And then you just minus X her, and you kill all your opponents, and you win. So that's why I bought Food Chain today for like $110.
God damn it.
I got 8% bonus bucks, baby.
Oh, fuck. I should probably buy some cards. Not sponsored, by the way. TCG Player is just pretty good.
Yeah. So that's what I think. Maybe I'll do a deck tech once I'm done building it. It's this. So I said I was building casual pirates. I do plan to build Jessica with Thrasios because I own Thrasios. And then there's one more deck. Actually, maybe two more decks that we'll talk about that I plan on building. But we got some more commanders to talk about. Blake didn't even get to talk about Jessica right now. Anything you want to add?
Nope. I am just happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can move on to Rograk, son of Roga. Probably butchering that. It costs 0 mana. What?
What the hell?
It's a legendary creature, Kobold Warrior. It has First Strike, Menace, and Trample, and Partner, but it's a 0/1.
0 mana? Red creature? This is essentially a better Pact of Titan in my eyes. And that's always been a pet card I've wanted to make work, but I haven't really had a chance. But this makes me like kind of do that little eye emoji where I'm like, huh? Maybe? Huh? It's cute as a commander, and it's great that it doesn't cost any mana. You know, you can get some infinite, like storm triggers to go off with like Cloudstone Curio and then any of the other kobolds. So you like play this, and then you play another kobold, which triggers Cloudstone Curio to then get this one to like bounce back to your hand. And then you just go like...
Or just any other creature.
Well, any other creature, but you want to do the kobold specifically because they have 0 mana as their mana cost. So you can just go back and forth between casting these, get like a bunch of like storm triggers or a storm count, and then like, you know, play a card like, I don't know, Empty the Warrens to just create like a bajillion goblin tokens. You can kind of go with a Voltron strategy if you want to pair it with like Arden, who was that white commander that, you know, cheats equipment costs for artifacts. That way you can just get like Colossus Hammer to like go on this guy pretty easily. So there's some fun and wacky stuff with this guy, but I mean, I feel like you're only going to get to kill one opponent at a time that way, so it's like okay.
Yeah, there are some really good things you can do with this. You mentioned Cloudstone Curio earlier. If you use Dockside and make at least 3 treasures, you can just infinitely bounce your Dockside and make infinite mana. You can also just, if you play Mox Amber, Rograk is a legendary creature, so it's like a 0 mana rock that'll instantly tap for a mana. And then there's also the cards like Deflecting Swat and Fierce Guardianship that are just instantly live, like turn 1 when you cast this thing. So this card is like pretty deceptive, and like there's cards that like Diabolic Intent where like you sacrifice a creature and like, well, you have a creature because it's 0 mana. There's just a lot of things in which you can actually do with this card that it actually is deceptively powerful, like its flavor text suggests.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that I think will have the most interesting builds, but I don't see this being like CEDH playable, I guess.
I'm actually interested to see what happens, because I know a lot of CDH players are talking about it, but we should move on.
Alright, Togog, Goblin Weaponsmith. Legendary creature, Goblin Artificer. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a colorless artifact equipment token named Rock. With equipped, creature has 1. Tap, sacrifice Rock. Rock deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and equip 1. So, partner, 2/2.
We will rock you.
Yeah, so I think Arden is another one that I would want to pair this up with, just because of the equipment flavor, and you're just gonna be able to like have a bunch of rocks. But I don't know, it's cute.
Oh, it's hella cute. I love that. It's just like it's a fucking rock, just dude. And you just throw it and it deals damage, and I'm just like, this is like I don't think I've seen a single person online say a single bad thing about this card. It's just so pure and good and silly.
I haven't seen the rock artifact token, but I'm really excited to look it up later.
Alright, this next one's pretty interesting. It is Dargo the Shipwrecker. It is 6 and a red, legendary creature, giant pirate. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may sacrifice any number of artifacts and or creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrificed this way, and 2 less for each other artifact or creature you've sacrificed this turn. It has trample, it has partner, and it's a 7/5. So this one's weird.
It's weird.
In a good way.
It can circumvent the commander tax. Oh god, sorry. It works well with Malcolm, who makes those treasure tokens, and that can help kind of like double down on the mana cost that brings it down.
Mm-hmm.
Because you sacrifice a treasure token, you bring this down 2 mana, and you're also then netting 1 mana from the treasure token, so essentially it's like 3 mana from a treasure token to help cast him, which is cool. I mean, Dockside Extortionist I hear is a pretty good card, and he's a pirate, so kind of fits in pretty well with the pirate strategy.
Yeah. Guy, I have good news for you. So, if you can sacrifice 3 things, then you can cast Thermopod or Phyrexian Altar, and then infinitely cast Dargo for that single mana that is generated off of the Thermopod or Phyrexian Altar, because you just keep sacrificing Dargo to one of those 2 things and just keep casting them over and over again, and then you play Jessica as your other commander and win.
Huh, okay. That's pretty cool too, because I guess, you're always going to be sacrificing the same thing. Oh, okay. So this is like a mono red. Okay. You're now getting my brain to turn, because I really like Jessica and I want to make her work, but now I'm just trying to think like what's better, doing the food chain route or doing this that you just said.
We can talk later after this like 3-part review.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because like you want several colors to kind of make better consistency and like pick up for strengths where monocolor lacks. But I don't know, like I'll have to see. Maybe I'll build them both online and then kind of like play test them to see which one I like more. Though I did just spend $110 on Food Chain, Blake, so why didn't you tell me this information earlier?
What's the fun in that?
Anyway, we gotta keep moving, because we're still in red. Ketis, Amberclaw Familiar. Legendary creature, Elemental Lizard. Whenever a commander you control...
1 in a red.
What did I say?
You forgot to say that it costs 1 in a red.
Who cares? All the familiars cost 1 in whatever color that they're paired with. I hope our listeners are smart enough to figure that out, Blake. I'm also now into my second beer.
so am I. I'm actually done with my second beer.
You're done with your second beer?
Yeah.
Gee, well, okay, wait. My first beer was like a 2-beer thing, and now I'm on my second beer, which is another 2-beer. So it's kind of like I'll have drinking 4 beers, probably by the end of this episode, and that's only 1 episode, Blake. We got 2 more to do after this.
I know, this set's gonna be great.
Okay, but back to what matters. Ketis, Emberclaw Familiar, 1 in an R, legendary creature, elemental with wizard. I almost said wizard. Whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. So it also has partner, duh, and it's a 1/1. It kind of reminds me of Saskia, who was that 4-color commander that we got back a while ago.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And yeah, it's pretty popular. She's pretty popular.
Mm-hmm.
Seen some people saying that they should just pair this with like another like Voltron partner commander, and like I get where you're coming from, since Kedis can then just deal high amounts of damage to each other opponent.
True.
Like, that's not the same, because the Voltron damage that is being dealt is commander damage, which is what's killing the opponents.
Right.
So Kedis isn't going to be killing anyone because of that.
Right. A lot of people were confused about that, because people forget that commander damage is only as combat damage.
Blake never forgets, though.
Oh, so go watch our Voltron episode. It's pretty good.
I mean, go watch our Burn episode. It's even better. Anyway, you could give this Kedis little creature like Grafted Exoskeleton, or like Glistening Oil, or Tainted Strike, because then it only has to deal 10 damage to like do Infect and then kill everyone that way, which I feel like is a flavor win in like a... It's like a flavor win in a way. Like, not so... I guess not flavor. That's the wrong word. It's really cute. You had this little lizard that's probably like no bigger than the size of your hand, but then it like... I just imagine it like spitting oil 3 different directions to then kill 3 of your opponents.
I can dig it.
I can dig it too. Alright. Who's next?
We've got Breaches. Brazen Plunderer, 3 in a red, legendary creature, Goblin Pirate with Menace. Whenever one or more pirates you control deal combat damage to your opponents, exile the top card of each of those opponents' libraries. You may play those cards this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. It has partner, and it's a 3/3.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like a Tolly in a way, but it cares more about pirates, and, you know, the more pirates that you're having deal damage, not just combat damage, so that's where, like, Lightning Rig Crew comes in handy. Or, like, not Goblin Buccaneer. The Minotaur Buccaneer card that we mentioned earlier.
Glinthorn Buccaneer, yeah.
Yeah, that guy. So, yeah, pretty good. Pair this with Malcolm. You know, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are going to be doing, actually. Because those two, one of them makes mana, treasure tokens, and one of them is creating card advantage. Both things you want to be doing.
Yeah, if you're like a stuck-up snob who wants to win every game. But I want to play some fun, casual pirates, Blake.
I want to play Fair Magic.
I want to play, yeah. I want to play Fair Magic. Okay, Quark. Excuse me, is this Quark the Thumbless? The same Quark
baby.
from Quark's Thumb? So it's a legendary creature Goblin Wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Partner, and then just love the flavor text on this. It's double or nothing, and it's a 2/2. So, 2 important things to note for this card. You do not lose the spell if you lose the flip. So it goes back to your hand, and you can essentially just then try again. So, not bad. And the cast trigger from the first time that you cast that spell still counts for the storm counter, even if the spell isn't resolved. In case that matters for, you know, a storm deck, for if that's how you're building this around. So Quark's Thumb is definitely going up in price because of this. And personally, Blake, I wouldn't be mad if someone played Quark's other Thumb, the silver bordered card in this deck, for just pure flavor reasons. I mean, it's like, you know, pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this just helps make your win conditions a little more protected. Since if you lose, then you can go back to your hand and then try it again. I've seen like some people say like, you know, you can just get 2 demonic consultations to go off in response to like Thassa's Oracle. So it's like extra protected, but
You have to get lucky.
I mean, yeah. Coin flipping is not something that you typically see in Commander, but like, I don't know. I don't know if CEDH though would typically want to like leave it to chance like that.
I don't know. You can play like Sakashima, and that way you have 2 Krarks.
Oh wow. Wow.
Wow. I will say that if anyone plays Bludgeoning Brawl, it's an enchantment that turns all non-equipment artifacts into equipments. What you do is you just stick both of those thumbs back on Krark, and if you do that, I will buy you 2 beers, 1 for each thumb.
Okay. Blake, you are really pushing this I will buy you 2 beers thing for our fans if you ever meet them, because, you know, when's the next time we're really going to get to play Magic? But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like this card. I give it 2 thumbs up.
I give it 0 thumbs up because I cut off my thumbs.
Alright, our next legendary creature is...
Well, hold on. You do gotta read these 2 together because they are cubed together.
Okay, I'll just read them together then. We got Alina, Kessig Trapper, 4 and a red, legendary creature, human scout with first strike. It taps to add an amount of red equal to the greatest power among creatures you control that entered the battlefield this turn. And it has partner, and it's a 4/3. And then there's also Halana, Kessig Ranger, 3 and a green, legendary creature, human archer with reach. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. When you do, that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. It has partner, it's a 3/4, and they're basically a match made in heaven.
Yeah, I included these 2 together because flavor reasons. They're like lovers, and they were some of the most highly requested commanders since they've been mentioned in Innistrad, and they are gay, and I do like that we were able to throw some representation in there. Not as much as maybe I would have liked, because we got 70 creatures, and this kind of seems to be like the only chance, or the only thing that they did. I guess I haven't looked so much into like the Porthos of all this, but both care about large creatures entering the battlefield, which is definitely a Gruul thing to do. My suggestion would always be to cast Alina first, then Halana, because then when you have a creature enter the battlefield, you tap Alina, so you can pay for the 2 extra mana so that creature deals damage to another creature without having to fight it. So yeah.
Yeah.
But we did get that one Jumpstart commander who I forget its name, but it's like the Gruul one where it cares about fighting creatures. So like these 2 can go into that deck, but I feel like actually the Jumpstart commander should go into this deck because it cares more about fighting.
Oh yeah, the fight one. The fight commander.
Yeah, but you want to have these both out on the same time to get like the most synergy. So these don't seem like 99 cards. If you are going to build this fight style deck, you would want them to strictly be the commanders, because you kind of need them to both be accessible so you can make them the most synergistic.
Right, I agree. I think most people will be putting them together. I mean, you can... That's what's weird flavor-wise. It's like you can separate them and pair them off with other partners. That feels weird. So that's like my small critique of it. But we're finally in green now. Alright, we're in the last, like, color, basically.
You said the last, and I was like, hell yeah, we're almost done. But then I was like, you got 2 more episodes to do after this guy. And you are getting drunk. Alright, so we got green. Numa, Gerarga Chieftain, 2 green legendary creature, elf warrior. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, you may pay XX, so 2x. When you do, distribute X +1/+1 counters among any number of target elves. Partner 2/2.
Yeah, this basically seems like a pretty casual, like, elf tribal deck. I am a little bit concerned that there are just so many good elves printed throughout the history of Magic at this point that this just won't see play as a commander or as the 99, honestly. There's just so many elves that have been printed throughout the years.
For elves in EDH, this might make the cut, because, you only have one of every card. I'd have to think about that. I don't know too much about elves, though I think elves is the most supported tribal type. I could be wrong.
If not one of the most supported.
Yeah. But, okay.
Alright. Anara. Wolvid Familiar. 3 and a green. Legendary creature. Wolf Beast. Other commander creatures you control have indestructible. Partner 4/4. It's part of the familiar cycle. It's kind of okay because making your commander indestructible is generally pretty good. Yeah. I guess this could go in the 99 of some decks.
I mean, the way that I see it is it says other commander creatures you control have indestructible. So this isn't giving itself indestructible. And the most use that you would want is to run this in the 99 with partners. So you can play this down and give both your commanders indestructible. But then it's kind of like, what's the point of that? Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. I would rank this in the middle of the familiar cycle, with the blue and the red one probably being the strongest, and then, probably the white and the black one being the weaker of the two, and then green's in the middle.
Yeah, this card reminds me a little bit of Bastion Protector, which is a white card that says commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. We should move on to this next card, which is super exciting.
We finally get to see him. It's Kodama. From Kodama's Reach. Kodama of the East Tree. 4 green, legendary creature spirit. It has Reach. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. It has Partner, and it's a 6/6. So, pretty cool that we get to see this. So the types of cards that you're likely going to be putting out are creatures, lands, and maybe enchantments. Lands are great because, they don't cost any mana, and if you happen to have 2 lands in your hand, you play one and then you get to play the other, which, oh wow, green gets to play a lot of lands, haha. But it does not work with when Kodama enters the battlefield, so you're not going to be putting a creature onto the battlefield once you put Kodama from the command zone onto the field. Yeah, I think you would have to have that work with the 99.
Mm-hmm.
So it does work really well with ramp spells, Cultivate Kodama's Reach, fetch lands, big creatures, I guess, are kind of cool. Because you want to play a Llanowar Elves, and then you play a Gigantosaurus, or you play Blightsteel Colossus.
Yeah.
Some pretty big creatures. I worked him into this episode. I am going to have to think of a way to do it for the next part. But I think the best way to get this card to really go off is you need to focus on 1 or 2 permanent types. And I guess if you're going to go lands focused and maybe creatures focused, you're just going to want a lot of creatures with landfall to really get the triggers to go off.
Yes.
But I mean, cool that we get to see Kodama. Maybe we'll get to, I think Kodama is from Kamigawa, so maybe we'll get to see a second version of them when we go back there. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess one other note before we move on is if you play a land, you can then put a creature on. It doesn't have to be land and then another land. Or you see what I'm saying? It can be different kinds of permanents. So that's what's really nice about this is it's flexible.
Ooh, well, okay, if you put a land, you are likely only going to be putting another land because it says equal or lesser converted mana costs. And
yes, that's a good clarification.
Yeah, but if you play a creature with 1 mana, then you could play a land because
lands are technically 0 CMC.
Right, so I mean, yeah, for every creature you get to play, you play another land. So you play your Lotus Cobra, and then you play Lotus Cobra, you can play a land. and then you have a land to tap for mana, and then you also gotta...
It's already snowballing out of
Oh,
control.
Jesus Christ, it's EDH.
I don't know about that, but seems pretty cool.
Alright, let's move on.
Yes, we got Slurk, all ingesting 5 and a green, legendary creature Ooze. Slurk enters the battlefield with 5+1/+1 counters on it. Whenever Slurk or another creature with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature with a +1/+1 counter on its partner, and it's a 0/0. But remember, it comes in with those +1/+1 counters on it. So it's cool. We finally have like an Ooze commander.
Well, we've had Mimeoplasm, which is an Ooze, I believe.
That's true.
But this is like an Ooze Lord. But the flavor of this card, since it's like all ingesting, it would care more about like when things die, it gets bigger. But this is like when it dies, it puts counters onto other things. It's a little misleading. I mean, I guess like in decks where it cares a lot about +1/+1 counters. I guess it's not even an Ooze Lord because it doesn't care about oozes. So it just cares about +1/+1 counters. Alright. Nothing else to say about him. Kamahal, Heart of Krosa, 6 green. So this is the last of our Mythic Partner cycle. Legendary creature, Human Druid. At the beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. 1 and a green. Until end of turn, target land you control becomes a 1/1 elemental creature token with vigilance, indestructible, and haste. It's still a land. And then he has partner 5/5. So it's kind of like Nature's Will and Sylvan Awakening effects, which are great here since you can turn your lands into creatures, and then Kamahal will pump them. His high mana cost is a little cumbersome in my opinion, but he does pump himself as well, which is nice. In the early days when I was running Ghalta for just like big dick creatures, I would have considered this. But now that I'm like dinosaur tribal and creature only, this just kind of gets like I mean, I'm not even considering this anymore. But it would have been fine, and I guess this is a good card for like Ghalta decks because essentially you'll be able to cast Ghalta for 2 mana if you have Kamahal out. Almost always, yeah.
Right. I mean, this is very similar to the earlier version of Kamal Fist of Krosa in its abilities and its activated abilities. And I will say, having that static ability, it's basically like an overrun ability. It's really nice. It's gonna get that damage through. It's gonna win you games. So I think it's perfectly fine having to cast 8 mana for that. These effects are pretty good. So I like it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, quick question for you, Blake, but between the mythics that we got, how would you rank them?
All the mythics?
For the partner mythics that we got. So we got white, Akroma, Sakashima for blue, Tavesh for black, red is Jessica, and then Kamahal is green.
There's definitely ones that I like and other ones that I don't like as much. So I'd say like a B minus. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm asking like, how do you rank all of them? Like, you know, for me, it probably goes like Akroma, then Kamahal, then probably Tavesh, then Sakashima, and then Jessica.
Jessica being your number 1?
Jessica being number 1.
Yeah, I'd say my list is basically the same.
You fucking copier. God damn it.
I'm also kind of drunk and I don't want to think that hard. Come on.
Okay. Alright. This next one, I'm like looking at the name and I'm like, how do I say this?
Just wing it.
Itch Tech Kick, Salvage Splicer, 4 green, legendary creature, human artificer. When Itch Tech Kick enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token. When an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Itch Tech Kick, a +1/+1 counter on each golem you control. He's only a 1/1, so 5 mana for a 1/1 sucks.
But it creates another
And
body.
I mean, I guess. It is Golem Tribal.
Yeah, I mean, it asks you to play artifacts, and then you can buff up your creatures, but it's just very meh. I don't, like, no one's really asking to play Golem Tribal. Like, this isn't really the best kind of payoff for playing a +1/+1 counters. Like, it's just very forgettable.
Move on.
Gillenraw, Caller of Wirewood, 2 and a green, legendary creature, elf druid. It taps, add green, then spend this mana to cast a spell with converted mana cost 6 or greater, draw a card. Partner, 1/2. So this is kind of like a mana dork, but it's 3 CMC, so it's really bad mana dork, because there's just so many good mana dorks at 1 CMC and 2 CMC. Like, both as like the commander and as the 99 is very meh. Like, it's weird, like it is ramp and it's card draw, but it's just so mediocre that like I don't really think many people are interested in playing this.
I mean, we did talk about Brianlin earlier, who cares about converted mana cost 6 or greater, and then there is going to be that Naga Wizard that I swear to God we'll talk about in the next episode. Hold on.
Stop being such a tease.
Yeah. So like, I feel like if you play in like the 6 CMC tribal, which I don't even know, like, why is that a thing? Like, does Simic care about that a lot? And I mean, I guess it does, because it's like, you know, the best color pair that there is, really.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I have a comment about that. We'll get to that later.
Alright. We got one more. It's colorless. It's the Prismatic Piper. It's a legendary creature shapeshifter. If the Prismatic Piper is your commander, choose a color before the game begins. Prismatic Piper is the chosen color. And it has partner, and it's a 3/3. So the design for this card was to be color fixing, specifically to draft. I don't think we're going to see much of this outside of the commander draft, unless if you are very specifically trying to partner with some of these commanders just to like help you get color fixing.
Like, there's really no reason to play Prismatic Piper, because there's just every other, like, say you choose a color, there's some other commander in that color identity that goes better and does something. There's not really a benefit to it being a shapeshifter or costing 5 CMC or being a 3/3. Like, maybe you just really fucking like Seb McKinnon art and that's why you're playing him. But other than that, you probably should not be playing this as your commander ever.
Yeah, because even like what Blake said, like, even if you're like trying to build like Horse Tribal, but you're trying to build like Horse Tribal with some other color, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll just like splash Prismatic Piper so I can get that green. Well, why don't you just run a green partner commander? You got now like 10 options, or like 8 options, I forget, but that will just at least give you some kind of card advantage, or sorry, not card advantage, just some other effect that's like better than just saying like, I declare Prismatic Piper green. You're never gonna cast it. Like, it really is just built for decks to like help you be able to like have multiple colors. Like, yeah, I guess I can put this in like Thrasios, so you know, Thrasios can just be Sultai.
Don't even think about it. No.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. So, alright, we're gonna like do a quick speed run to like get us out of this episode so we can move on to episode 2. Blake, who do you think the best new partner commander is? Like, pairing wise, or just like by themselves?
That's really hard to tell. There's just because of the partner mechanic, there's just so many possible combinations, so many different options we have. And best is kind of hard to define. Like, at least in terms of like popularity, I've seen a ton of people talk about Krark, the Thumbless. I've just seen so many people like really excited about him. People just really seem to like him. So, like, I'll say Krark.
Wow, I guess you chose the wrong answer, because the right answer was like Jessica with Thrasios to do the food chain thing that I talked about.
Oh my god.
Malcolm and Breaches comes in a close second, though, because that's the casual deck I'm going to build. But it could definitely be CEDH, because they both give you great card advantage and, like, mana. Alright, so now that we've kind of gone through 40 commanders, which, oh my god.
Goddamn.
Yeah. We're going to just say, like, we are the Wizard Staff. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. You've heard this a bunch of times before. And, you know, make sure you leave a like and a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WizardStaff101. Send us an email at thewizardstaff101@gmail.com if you want to bitch and complain about how stupid Blake is. Thank you for listening, and see you in part 2.
See you in part 2.